Welcome to Chill Then Conquer, the channel where warriors are forged through silence, forged through pain, and reborn in the fire of discipline. If you're new here, subscribe and ring that bell. This isn't just another channel. This is your initiation. Let's begin. She stopped texting. You waited, checked your phone, scrolled back through every message, every emoji, every period. Nothing. Silence. And somehow, that silence cut deeper than if she had screamed at you. You didn't expect it to hit this hard. You thought you were strong. But here you are, heart thudding like war drums in your chest, wondering what you did wrong, wondering what she's doing, who she's with. The mind, it's racing. The ego, wounded. The silence, a blade. This is the beginning of the storm. But listen carefully, warrior. This pain you're feeling, it's not weakness. It's not neediness. It's awakening. This is the silent knife. And once you learn how to hold it instead of bleed from it, you'll never be the same. Let's break the silence and reveal the hidden war behind her quiet. 1. Why her silence hurts more than words. A scream is loud, aggressive, clear. It gives you something to fight against. But silence? It leaves nothing, just questions. And man doesn't fear pain as much as he fears uncertainty, not knowing. The mind would rather be punished with harsh truth than left alone in limbo. That's why her silence doesn't just hurt, it haunts. Because your brain begins to create its own story. Maybe she's found someone else. Maybe you weren't enough. Maybe this is the end. None of it is confirmed, and yet you believe it. Why? Because silence forces you to become the author of your own insecurity. And most men aren't trained for that. Most haven't built the inner structure to face themselves in the absence of validation. So they reach, text again, explain, apologize, beg, react. And every reaction is another crack in the foundation of their self-worth. But what if I told you that her silence is not a trap, but a forge? 2. The Stoic understanding of pain. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Her silence is not the problem. Your interpretation of it is. You've attached meaning, you've said, if she's silent, I must be unworthy. But that's a story, a falsehood. You're giving her silence the power to define your identity. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. No event, no woman, no silence gets to tell you who you are. Only you do. And if her silence breaks you, then you were already cracked. She just revealed the weakness. This is your chance to seal it with steel. 3. The test behind her silence. Here's what no one tells you. Sometimes her silence isn't rejection, it's a test. She wants to see what you'll do, not maliciously, instinctively. Women are tuned to emotional energy. They don't always ask what you are, they ask who you become when things get quiet. Do you fold? Do you panic? Do you chase? Or do you remain unmoved, focused, calm, anchored in your purpose? A man who chases during silence exposes his addiction to validation. But a man who stands firm, he creates mystery. He becomes unreadable. And unreadable men are irresistible. You don't pass the test by trying to win her back. You pass it by no longer needing to. 4. The emotional alchemy. Pain is energy. What you do with that energy determines your path. Most men waste it. They spiral, obsess, rehearse imaginary conversations, stalk her socials. They let the silence eat them from the inside. But you will alchemize it. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." So take this moment and turn it inward. Why does her attention determine my peace? What wound in me is screaming for her voice to soothe it? What part of me still believes I am not enough without someone else's love? This is your mirror. The silence reflects the parts of you that still need healing. Use it. Transform it. Don't react. Rebuild. 5. From her silence to inner command. There is a rare kind of man who does not flinch when left alone. He doesn't chase, explain, or complain. He doesn't seek closure because he is the closure. He stands, eyes forward, jaw set, and continues building. This is command. When she goes silent and you stay grounded, she will feel it. She'll wonder, why isn't he chasing me? Did I lose him? Has he found someone else? But here's the secret. It's not about her. It never was. Her silence was just the battlefield. Your response is the war. And when you respond like a warrior, with stillness, strength, and sovereign action, you claim victory not over her, but over yourself. Six. The rebirth through solitude. There's something sacred about solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Her silence is not loneliness, it's space. Space to train, to read, to build, to bleed and grow. Space to remember who you were before you needed anyone. In silence, you meet your true self. You hear the voice inside you that says, "You are still here. You still breathe. You still matter. You still rise." Use the quiet. Let it shape you. Let it refine your habits, sharpen your focus, and ignite your purpose. What she feels when you don't chase. Now, here's what happens when you hold the line. She notices. Maybe not right away. Maybe not at all. But energy never lies. She'll sense the shift. She'll feel your detachment, and that will stir something primal inside her. Because the modern world is flooded with weak men who chase, cry, and collapse at the first sign of distance. You became a rare breed. You didn't fall for the bait. You walked forward, built muscle, built focus, built peace. She expected a boy. She met a man. And maybe, just maybe, she realizes what she lost. But by then, you've already become someone she no longer deserves. 8. Ritual for the warrior. Here's what you do today. A Stoic ritual to begin your ascent. 1. Write one sentence. Her silence does not define me. Repeat it until it becomes truth. 2. Move. Hit the gym, the pavement, the bag. Move your body. Move your emotions. Let the sweat be your sermon. 3. Build. Do one thing that adds to your future. Study, save, create. Lay a single brick. 4. Connect. Reach out to a brother. Check in. Speak like men. Build your tribe. 5. Reflect. Before sleep, ask, did I chase or did I lead? Repeat daily. Not for her, for you. 9. The man you're becoming. You are not defined by who walks away. You are defined by how you walk forward. Every great man has been brought to his knees by silence. But the great ones don't stay there. They rise. And when you rise, you stop wondering why she pulled away, because you're too busy becoming someone worth chasing. So next time she goes quiet, smile. It's not your downfall. It's your moment. The silent knife has been placed in your hands. Use it to cut away weakness. Forge the steel of your will. And remember, this is just the beginning. Stay with us, because in the next chain, unreachable, the new form of power, we'll show you how to turn this stillness into presence, and your presence into the rarest form of attraction there is. You're not chasing, you're becoming, and she will feel the difference. Hold the silence. Let it burn. Chain 2. Unreachable, the new form of power. There comes a moment in a man's life when he stops reaching, not out of defeat, not from bitterness, but from awakening. He sees that his striving, his explaining, his desire to be understood was a form of servitude. A man who explains himself too much is already beneath the one he explains to. A man who reaches too far lowers himself by the very act. It's not pride, it's not arrogance, it's clarity. And from that clarity is born a new form of power. He becomes unreachable. In a world that confuses availability with love and response with value, the man who becomes unreachable is seen as dangerous. Not because he harms, but because he stops begging to be seen. Women who once ignored his silence now feel the gravity of his absence. Friends who only called when they needed him start to feel the emptiness he left behind. Even his enemies become confused. They expected noise. He gives them a void. The Stoics called this apatheia. Not indifference, but transcendence. Not emotionless, but unmoved by emotional games. You don't need to yell to prove you're free. You only need to be unshaken. Power redefined. In our age, power is loud. It boasts, posts, replies, and tries to prove. But real power, Stoic power, is the man who disappears from the emotional battlefield, not to run away, but to build a fortress. You'll know you've reached that point when you don't answer to guilt texts. You feel no need to correct the narrative. You see her with someone else, and instead of rage, you feel nothing. Not because you don't care, but because caring in that direction no longer makes sense. You see that your attention was a gift, not something she deserved by default. When you stop explaining, they start wondering. Before, you used to text paragraphs. Now you say nothing. Before, you'd post things she might see. Now your life is too full to perform for ghosts. And the paradox? The less you try to be heard, the more your silence echoes. The more you disappear, the more visible you become. But don't return. Don't shatter the discipline with a response. This new power is not bait, it's identity. The inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote of the inner citadel, a place within a man that no insult, no silence, no betrayal can enter. You don't build this fortress through revenge. You build it through absence, mastery, and presence. A man who is unreachable is not hiding, he's elevated. She cannot touch him, not because he's cold, but because he's become too warm to burn himself again. He does not play games because he no longer finds pleasure in illusions. She will notice. At first, she won't. She'll think it's another phase. She'll wait for the text that always came. She'll expect you to explain why you pulled away. But it doesn't come. You're not just silent, you're gone. Not moved on in a superficial way, but transformed. You don't check her page, you don't wonder who she's with, you don't react to the breadcrumbs. Because you've built a new standard. You will not return to someone who only noticed your worth in your absence. You are not a second option. You are the fire she thought would always be lit. But now it has gone cold. For her. You become a myth. Unreachable men become myths. They live not in her inbox, but in her memory. They are not measured by how often they reply, but by how completely they disappeared. She remembers you not with anger, but with ache. And the truth? It's not about her anymore. This path you walk now is not about punishment. It's about purification. You left the arena of emotional war to build a kingdom in silence. And in that kingdom, you discovered what most never will, that your greatest power is not how loud you roar, but how far your silence reaches. Signs you've become unreachable and powerful. You don't chase closure, you are the closure. You no longer crave her validation. You guard your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You stopped explaining your silence. It speaks for itself. You don't monitor who's watching your stories. You're too busy writing a new one. This is the Stoic path of self-ownership. The moment you stop being reachable to her emotional chaos, you become available to something greater: purpose, honor, peace, strength. The men you were always meant to lead. The mission you neglected while chasing her mood swings. Practices for becoming unreachable. Digital discipline. Unfollow, block if necessary. Not to punish, but to protect the citadel. Out of sight, out of temptation. Delay response, then eliminate. First, wait 12 hours before replying, then 24, then realize she no longer gets access. Craft the new routine. Fill the void with purpose: gym, study, brotherhood, silence. These are not distractions, they're your return. Write, but don't send. Channel the energy, but don't share it with someone who didn't value you. Read the ancients. Every morning read Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus. Anchor your soul before the world tries to seduce it. You're not cold, you're pure. They'll say you're emotionless, they'll say you're selfish, but in truth, you've simply returned to yourself. You gave warmth to someone who played with fire. Now your warmth belongs to your future, to the brothers who need your leadership, to the younger version of you who once begged for crumbs. You are not unreachable because you're cruel. You are unreachable because you finally remembered your value. Final reflection. When a man becomes unreachable, he doesn't float above life, he walks deeper into it. He doesn't build walls, he raises standards. Let them wonder, let them regret, let them talk. You do not belong in those rooms anymore. Because now you are not just free, you are unshakable, you are untouchable, you are unreachable. Stay with us. In Chain 3, we go deeper into the soul of this transformation. We explore how to weaponize silence, not just to shield your heart, but to forge an aura no one dares to test. It's called the Black Aura. Why mystery is more powerful than words. Chain 3, the Black Aura. Why mystery is more powerful than words. A man doesn't have to shout to be feared. He doesn't have to beg to be desired. He doesn't even have to speak to be unforgettable. He only needs one thing: mystery. There's a moment in every Stoic man's transformation when silence stops being protection and becomes presence. Not a shield from pain, but an aura that demands respect without a word. That's the Black Aura. The Black Aura is born in the fire of betrayal. You don't earn this kind of power through peace. You earn it in the heartbreak, in the silence after she stopped answering, in the nights when you felt like a ghost walking in your own life. It is not a mask, it's a consequence of everything you saw, everything you survived, and everything you no longer need to explain. You used to be visible, open, reachable, but now you've become something else, something quiet, something still, something dangerous. What is the black aura? It's not clothes, it's not looks, it's not even confidence. It's energy, a force that walks into the room before you do, a silence that makes others second-guess their words, a gaze that sees without reacting, a presence that makes her feel like she's being watched by her own conscience. She used to mock your emotions. Now she fidgets in your silence. She used to feel powerful when you chased. Now she stumbles in the void you left. You haven't said a word, and yet you've said everything. The power of not needing to be understood. Mystery begins the moment you stop needing to explain. You no longer post for her. You don't try to show her your healing. You just vanish and evolve. And she senses it. She can't name it, but she knows it. She feels it when she checks if you've watched her story and sees nothing. She feels it when she texts you just to say hi and gets no reply. She feels it when she flirts online and you stay silent. You became a mirror, and that mirror is terrifying. Men who carry the black aura. They don't chase, they magnetize. They are not always the most beautiful, but they are the most grounded. They do not compete. They don't explain their past. They do not overshare. They walk into a room and everything gets quieter. Because they are not there to be liked. They are there to see who's worthy of their energy. That mystery? It's not strategy. It's discipline.
Why the aura works. The mind fears what it cannot predict. You used to be predictable. You'd reply fast, you'd double text, you'd check in, explain, overtalk. Now, you've become an unknown variable, and humans fear the unknown more than pain. Your silence becomes a blank canvas, and people project their guilt, fantasies, regrets, and curiosity onto it. She'll wonder, did he meet someone better? Did I go too far? Why isn't he trying to get me back? And she'll replay your silence in her mind for weeks. That's not cruelty. That's consequence. The Stoic root of the black aura. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your thoughts are needy, your presence will be. If your thoughts are pure, detached, and focused, your presence will glow with gravity. The black aura is not about manipulating others. It's about cultivating an internal code so strong, others can feel it without you saying a word. You don't have to pretend, you become. Practices to build the aura. Talk less, observe more. Let others reveal themselves first. Ask short questions. Say little. Watch everything. Master your eyes. Don't dart around. Don't scan for attention. Look slowly. Speak with your gaze. Disappear with dignity. Don't announce your exit. Just leave. From chats, from parties, from relationships. Silence is your signature. Control the reveal. Don't give your whole story. Let others earn your truth. The less they know, the more they imagine. Don't post your healing. True alchemy is done in private. Let your glow reveal the work, not your updates. Dress with depth. Not to impress, but to express order, precision, and self-respect. Minimal, clean, unbothered. Signs you now carry the black aura. People speak differently around you, more careful, more thoughtful. She starts to accidentally show up where you are. Your silence makes others over-explain themselves. You don't get invited to drama. You're above it. You enter a room, and the temperature shifts. Men notice you before women do, and that's the real signal of power. It's not revenge, it's resurrection. You didn't choose this to make her suffer. You didn't disappear to be cruel. You walked away because your peace became more important than her attention. You didn't build the black aura to intimidate. You built it because the boy who chased no longer exists, and she can feel it, and so can the world. From seen to felt. Once you begged to be seen, now you're felt, and that shift, it can't be undone. She'll never forget you, because she never figured you out. And every man she meets now will have to compete, not with your words, but with your silence.
not with your presence, but with the echo of your absence. Final reflection. You are no longer a man explaining his soul. You are a man who walks in silence, leaves in silence, and leaves behind a weight no one can name. This is the black aura. It's not something you show, it's something you carry. And the deeper your silence, the louder your myth. Stay with us. In Chain 4, we sharpen this transformation even further. You've become unreachable. You carry the black aura. Now it's time to step into the next phase. Chain 4, the standards. Why she no longer meets the man you became. There was a time when you would have done anything to keep her. Lowered your voice, bent your spine, silenced your instincts, just to avoid losing her. But that version of you died. Now, there's only one question left. Would the man you are now even choose her again? Before, you looked up. Now, so look across. You used to place her above yourself. She was the fantasy, the validation, the symbol of having made it. But that was when your standards were shaped by loneliness, not clarity, when desire blinded discernment. Now, it's different. You're not starving anymore. You've eaten the truth. And truth gives you taste. She didn't change. You did. You didn't raise your standards to hurt her. You did it to heal you. This isn't bitterness, it's purification. The man who begged for her energy no longer exists, because now you understand something deeper. Access to you must be earned. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're aligned. She used to pass because your filters were broken. Now your filters are sacred. And she doesn't meet them anymore. What are standards really? They are the invisible walls around your peace, the shape of your identity and practice, the spiritual border of your emotional kingdom. Without standards, you will sell your crown for a kiss. With standards, you become unbuyable. And here's the truth. If she doesn't meet your standards, she's not the enemy, she's the lesson. The illusion of compatibility dies in the fire of self-respect. You thought you were meant for her. You weren't. You were meant to wake up through her. The chaos, the disrespect, the hot and cold, the games, all of it was an alarm. Not for revenge, but for rebirth. You stayed too long because you didn't know your worth. Now you do. And suddenly, her energy feels too cheap for your frequency. What the new you no longer tolerates inconsistency. Love doesn't flinch. If she can't stand still, she can't stand beside you. Disrespect in disguise. Jokes at your expense. Backhanded comments. Comparison with other men. That was never humor. It was erosion. Emotional manipulation. Silent treatments. Strategic tears. Blame games. You now recognize the weaponized softness. Sex as a tool, not a gift. Intimacy became currency. Now you want connection, not transaction. Lack of vision. If she can't see past weekends and selfies, she can't walk with a man building legacy. You're not lonely, you're clean. When a man raises his standards, the world calls him cold. They don't understand. He's just done leaking his energy. It's not that you hate her. You just see clearly now. Her beauty no longer hypnotizes you. Her silence no longer shakes you. Her attention no longer excites you. Because your inner standards are louder than her presence. From Stoic Fire, The Origin of Standards, Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." Translation: if she doesn't elevate or grow, she's a distraction dressed as desire. Marcus Aurelius adds, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Stop trying to convince her of your value. Live it. And those who can't see it, are simply not meant to walk with it. The ritual of daily standards. Morning mirror question. Would the man I respect chase her energy today? If not, hold the line. Audit your conversations. Are you explaining your worth, or is it being witnessed? If you're performing, she's not aligned. Protect your silence. If your piece wobbles when she enters the frame, your standards need reinforcement. Choose substance over sparkle. Don't confuse her chaos for passion.
Fire without form burns everything, especially you. What happens when you enforce standards? She either rises to meet them or reveals she never could. People accuse you of changing. That's because you stopped settling. She reaches out just to talk, but you never read between the emojis. Your circle shrinks, but your kingdom becomes cleaner. You stop explaining your evolution. You just walk it. What she feels when you raise the bar. She senses it instantly. She can't access you the same way. She can't move you the same way. She can't guilt you the same way. That makes you rare, and rare makes you haunt her. You're no longer the boy who would have traded his soul for her validation. You're the man she never truly earned. From craving to choosing. Before, you craved her. Now you choose with wisdom. That's what standards do. They are the shield of kings. They protect your mission from those who flirt with it, but don't serve it. And here's the truth. The right woman will never ask you to lower them. She'll honor them, because she's built from the same metal. You didn't lose her. You found you. She wasn't a mistake. She was a mirror. She showed you who you were when your boundaries were weak. Now your strength offends her comfort. But that's okay. You're not looking for comfort anymore. You're building a code. And that code doesn't flex for desire. Final words. The standard is the crown. Never forget, you are not hard to love. You are just not for the undisciplined. You don't raise your standards to punish. You raise them to protect your future, your peace, your legacy. And when she looks back, she won't remember what you said. She'll remember that no matter how much she cried, whispered, seduced, or joked, you didn't bend. Because the man who carries standards doesn't kneel for memory. He stands for destiny. Stay with us. Next in the series, Chain 5, The Code, How to Build an Unbreakable Identity in a World of Emotional Chaos. A man without a code is a man waiting to be broken, not by war, not by death, but by desire, by confusion, by the approval he still secretly craves. Look around. So many men, lost in women, in comfort, in noise, not because they are weak by nature, but because they were never forged in fire. The world teaches them to feel, to explore themselves, to follow emotions like truth. But the Stoic man does not chase emotions. He channels them through his code. You don't need more motivation. You need a compass. Your pain won't disappear with another video. Your wounds won't vanish with a six-pack, a car, or a text back. What you need is direction, a spine made of principle, a system of being that doesn't crumble when she withdraws, when life hits, when your name is no longer called. The code is not made to impress. It is made to survive. What is the code? The code is your internal constitution, not written on paper, written on action. It is your operating system under pressure. The code doesn't change depending on who loves you. It doesn't adapt to attention. It doesn't dissolve in silence. Where emotions fluctuate, the code holds. It is what makes you rare in a world of men who fold at the first taste of rejection.
Why the code is feared. A man with a code cannot be seduced, not by sex, not by status, not by shallow promises of connection. She will try to reach you like she did before, with charm, with silence, with tests. But if you live by the code, her tactics will bounce off your armor. That doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you choose what leads. Emotion follows the code, never the other way around. Core pillars of the Stoic code. Silence over reaction. If it doesn't require your energy, don't give it your voice. Discipline over desire. What you want now cannot override what you want most. Purpose over approval. You were not born to be liked. You were born to be legendary. Presence over panic. Most chaos is imagined. Stillness is a form of power. Boundaries over begging. If someone must be convinced to value you, they're already lost. Virtue over victory. Win with integrity, or don't play at all. What happens when you break the code? You start chasing again. Her love, her validation, her softness. And the moment she withdraws, you collapse. You lose time. You begin arguing over things that don't shape your legacy. You become reactive. She texts late, you overthink. She's distant, you spiral. She laughs with another man, you implode. Because your worth was external, and external worth is fragile. When you follow the code, you don't flinch when silence comes. You lean into your work, your mission, your evolution. Her presence becomes a privilege, not a drug. If she adds peace, she stays. If she adds chaos, she goes. You stop explaining your standards. They are not rules, they are your rituals. You start to attract different energy. Women respect you more. Men listen more. Your life hardens and sharpens. The daily practice of the code. Write your 3 non-negotiables. What must be true in your behavior every day, no matter who is watching? Reflect nightly, not emotionally. Did you act from impulse or from principle? Audit who has access. Does her presence expand or dilute your discipline? Rehearse walking away. Play it in your mind. If she cheats, if she mocks your vision, if she breaks your peace, you go. With no need for drama, just with precision. Silence before action. If something triggers you, wait. Let your mind consult the code. Then strike, not from pain, but from position. How women respond to the coded man. They will test. They must. Because in a world of soft men, your sharpness is unfamiliar. At first, it confuses them. Then it frustrates them. Finally, it fascinates them. Because you don't flinch. You don't chase after withdrawal. You don't break when they press the emotional buttons. You're not controlling them. You're mastering yourself. And that changes everything. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." The code is built in adversity. Not when you're loved, but when you're ignored. Not when she's sweet, but when she's silent. Not when life flows, but when it hits back. That's the testing ground. And your code is the only armor you carry. Signs you're living by the code. Her attention no longer shifts your peace. You speak less, build more. You feel less need to explain your worth. Your presence says enough. You no longer fear loss. Your solitude becomes sovereign. From code to character. You don't fake being stoic. You forge it. And over time, the code becomes your character. You no longer remember to act disciplined. You become disciplined. You no longer try to be unfazed. You are unfazed because you trained, because you walked away when it hurt, because you built something within that even heartbreak cannot touch. Why most men will never live by the code. It's easier to chase pleasure. It's easier to be reactive. It's easier to fold for affection. But that's why most men end up broken. looking for themselves inside the ruins of a woman who no longer respects them. Don't be most men. Be coded. Be calm. Be carved from fire. Final words. The code is the beginning. Without a code, you'll always be a boy with emotions for a compass. With a code, you become a force of clarity in a fog of chaos. And when she looks at you, when she realizes you are no longer bendable, no longer moved by moods, she'll feel something she never expected. Respect, regret, reverence. Because the coded man doesn't just walk differently, he cannot be unmade. Next in the series, Chain 6, The Other Side, Why She Watches but Can Never Return. She left. In silence or with fire, maybe with cruelty, maybe with confusion, but she left. And she expected you to break, to chase, to prove, to unravel. That's what she's seen before. That's what works on men who don't know who they are. But you didn't chase. You didn't cry out. You didn't try to fix what wasn't yours to fix. You became still. And now, from a distance, she watches. Why she's still watching you. Don't mistake her silence for forgetting. The woman who leaves a man like you remembers. In pieces, in guilt, in curiosity. She checks. Not always with a message, not always with a call. Sometimes just through mutuals, a story view, a subtle online echo. Why? Because something didn't complete. You didn't shatter. And that creates a loop she can't close. Why she can't return. Understand this. If you've truly changed, if you've hardened, sharpened, transcended, then you are no longer who she left. And if she returned, she would return to a man who no longer bends, no longer explains, no longer gives her the emotional power she once held. She would find a gate, not one locked with hate, but one that no longer opens for confusion. The psychological hook she expected. When she left, she expected you to do what most men do: collapse inward, double text, apologize for being too much or not enough, make promises, wait in emotional purgatory. That's the loop she knows. That's the power she's accustomed to. But you disrupted the script. You didn't bleed in front of her. You bled in silence. And that silence, that unreachability, burns deeper than begging ever could. The cold reality of self-evolution. Most women who leave don't expect you to evolve. They expect you to remain emotionally stuck, waiting like a ghost in the hallway of memory. They don't anticipate your body transforming, your energy thickening, your purpose igniting. They don't expect that when they come back, they'll find a stranger wearing your face, but not your softness. She cannot cross into the new you, because the man you've become has a code, and that code doesn't allow regressions. Not out of anger, but because the cost is too high. Letting her return is not just about her, it's about what it would do to you. You would have to reopen old wounds, dismantle new boundaries, revisit a version of you that no longer exists. And so, she stays on the other side, close enough to watch, but never again to touch. Why closure is a myth. She may say she wants closure, but understand, closure is often a mask for reconnection. It's not always about peace. It's often about testing your evolution. Does he still feel something? Can I still spark him? Is he still reachable? If you respond emotionally, she wins. If you invite her in, you regress. But if you remain solid, calm, composed, she gets her answer. You're gone. Not angry, just untouchable. What she sees now. Your new discipline, your new circle, your silence. your absence from the pedestal. You didn't wait, you built. You became a man who owns his time, his space, his power. And in doing so, you sent a signal louder than any message. You had access to me. You lost it. And the gate doesn't open twice. Seneca knew this. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. She had you, and she wanted more elsewhere. So she left. But when she sees you thriving without her and still not reaching back, that craving turns inward, and she becomes poor in the very thing she once wasted. Why she cannot apologize. Don't expect her to say she was wrong, not directly, not clearly. Why? Because acknowledging your evolution would mean acknowledging her misjudgment. She didn't expect you to become rare. She didn't expect your detachment to sharpen into elegance.
And now, pride stands between her and any return. Even if she wanted to, even if she dreamed of it, she can't. Because you've become the thing her chaos cannot reach. This is the price of mastery. You want strength? You want peace? You want clarity? Then accept this. You will be watched, but not touched, loved silently, missed secretly, respected from a distance. Because most who break you will never be able to handle the version of you that rises from the ruins. And that's what makes this power so pure. You're not angry. You're not bitter. You're just gone. Signs you've crossed to the other side. You don't react to her name. You don't dream of her return. You dream of your next conquest. You no longer ask why. You no longer fantasize about revenge. You feel lighter, sharper, cleaner. You no longer need her to see, because you saw yourself, and that was enough. This is what she feels, but can't say. How did he move on like that? Why isn't he broken? Was I wrong? Does he ever think of me? She'll never ask, but the questions linger, because your evolution is the mirror she wasn't ready to face. You did what few men do. You used her exit as ignition, and now your silence screams louder than any declaration. Final thought. You are now the storm. She left you as a wounded man. She watches you now as a force of nature. And the truth? She will never say it, but she feels it every time she scrolls past your growth. You are now the thing she cannot reach. Not because you blocked her, but because you outgrew the cage she once kept you in. That's the other side, and she's still on this one, watching, but never again welcomed. Next in the series. Chain 7, the Great Reversal. When they chase, but you no longer want them. What happens when the one who left returns? Not because you begged, not because you changed yourself to become more appealing, but because you didn't. Because you stood still, and in that stillness you became something else. This is the 7th chain in your transformation, the Great Reversal, where the hunted becomes the storm, where the ignored becomes the indifference, where they chase and you no longer run because you no longer want. Let's begin. 1. The law of the pendulum. The ancients understood all motion has a return. The Stoics called it an apokrisis, the rebound, the eventual echo of what was once expelled. Emotion is not linear. Desire, attention, even love, all of it swings like a pendulum. Push hard enough in one direction, and time ensures it comes back. But by the time it returns,
you're not standing in the same place anymore. This is the secret they never tell you. The moment they come back is not the moment you wanted them. It is the moment you have moved beyond the wanting. And that is the true power, to be present for the reversal and yet be unmoved. 2. Her return is not redemption, it's a mirror. When she comes back, it will not be a confession. It will not be a speech that explains everything. It will be subtle, always subtle. A like, a message, a memory shared out of nowhere. A soft voice that says, "I've been thinking about you." But understand this, what returns is not her redemption. What returns is a test, to see what still lives inside you, to reveal whether your silence forged iron or if it only masked your longing. She is not returning to heal you. She is returning because your silence made her curious, because your absence became louder than your words ever did. She comes not for you, but for the feeling of being wanted again. The Stoics would say, examine the impression. When she returns, ask, is it love? Or is it ego reaching back to preserve its reflection? 3. Your rebirth was not built for her approval. 2. Too many men break at this stage. They think, finally, she sees me. But what she sees is not you. She sees the man that your pain built. The man who would have existed long before she ever entered your life, had you chosen your path, not chased hers. And so now you face a hard truth. You've become something she finally desires, but you've become it because you no longer need her desire. This is the paradox of the awakened man. When you were soft, she ran. When you hardened, she returned. But now in your silence, in your stillness, you've remembered something older than her. Your path, your mission, your self-command. And that cannot be shared with someone who only came back because you became unreachable. 4. The test of detachment. Seneca warned, if you wish to be loved, love yourself enough to walk away. Her return is the test of that love, not of her, but of your detachment. Will you return to the comfort of what once burned you, or will you step fully into your new power? She might offer softness now, warmth, curiosity, affection that feels familiar. But remember, attachment disguised as affection is still a chain. You must ask, is this love, or just the silence she could no longer bear? Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the ability to feel her presence and yet not be moved by it. It is to see her reaching and still not offer your hand. Not out of vengeance, not out of pride, but because the version of you that now stands in the fire no longer needs to be saved from it. 5. The return of power without the need to use it. The Stoic does not rejoice when the enemy falls, nor does he gloat when fortune reverses. When she returns, there is no need to flex, to post, to show how far you've come. Because real power doesn't announce itself, it simply is. You have become the mountain she once thought she could move. And now she sits at the base of it, whispering the winds of her regret. You owe her no vengeance, no speech, no explanation. Just the silence that became your crown. If you choose to respond, do it from calm. If you choose to remain silent, do it from power. And if you choose to walk away again, do it from wisdom. 6. When the chase ends. Here is the brutal truth. When you wanted her, she fled. Now that you don't, she chases. But what she chases is not always love. Sometimes it is nostalgia. Sometimes it is possession. Sometimes simply curiosity. You cannot build your life on a maybe. You cannot hand your crown to someone who only valued it once it glowed in her absence. You've already rebuilt from rubble. Don't hand the keys to the one who helped destroy it. There is no revenge in detachment, only freedom. 7. from longing to sovereignty. This is the final lesson of Chain 7. To forgive the return, but not surrender to it. To honor what was without giving it power over what now is. To see her and no longer ache. To hear her voice and no longer bend. To stand in the same room and not feel the tremble. This is not bitterness, it is sovereignty. It is the echo of Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." She is now the outside event. Your mind, it remains your kingdom. 8. The gate of the final chain. She came back, but you're already gone. Not in distance, but in depth. And now a new silence approaches. One that does not grieve. One that does not crave. One that does not shake when old ghosts knock at the door. In that silence is peace. And in that peace is the preparation for the final chain. Because in Chain 8, we don't just let go of her. We rise so far, so high, so silently, that no one from the past could ever reach us again. Stay with us. The final chain is near, and when it comes, you will no longer remember the boy who once begged. You will only know the man who walks alone, untouched.
Chain 8. The final ascent, where no one can reach you anymore. There is a place beyond reaction, beyond even silence, a place where even memory fades, where names dissolve into nothing, and no part of you remains exposed to the winds of others' choices. That place is not loneliness, it is not numbness, it is ascension. Not above others, but above the battlefield, above the reach of manipulation, desire, validation, above all the forces that once moved you. The final ascent is not made by muscle or rage. It is made by letting go. This is where the silence becomes permanent. Not because you've sworn to stay quiet, but because there is simply nothing left to say. You do not need to respond. You do not need to return. You do not need to hope. You are unreachable now. And that is not cruelty. That is clarity. 1. When the storm ends, the sky does not apologize. She may come back. They may reach out. They may whisper the words they withheld. But when you have walked this far, when you have climbed this high, you will no longer hear them as temptation. You will hear them as wind across the stone, and the man you've become no longer bends. Epictetus wrote, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. But now, even provocation cannot find a home in you. You have emptied the space it once occupied. There is no hook left in your flesh, no string tied to your neck, no weight on your tongue. They cannot reach you because you no longer reach for them." 2. She will knock, but you are not home. The irony of awakening is this: the moment you no longer want them is the moment they sense it. They return when the current they once swam in goes still. But it is too late, because the house is empty, the garden overgrown. The man who once waited is not gone. He is simply beyond. She may smile the old smile. She may say the right things, but you will no longer flinch, because you no longer need. She is not the test. She is not the final boss. She is not even the ghost. She is just someone you used to know before the climb. 3. The mountain is cold, but it is yours. There are no crowds on the final peak, no applause, no embrace. You must become intimate with stillness, but this is where strength becomes permanent, where silence becomes sacred, where peace is no longer earned, it is lived. The man who survives heartbreak but still craves attention is not yet done, but the man who can sit alone on the summit with no need to be seen, that man is free. Seneca said, "The greatest empire is to be emperor of oneself." The final ascent is that empire, not made of lands or armies, but of calm eyes, quiet breath, and a heart unshaken. 4. Why she cannot touch you anymore. She may try to mirror your strength. She may study your new silence. She may think if she imitates it, she can pull you back. But imitation is not transformation, and silence used as a tactic is not the same as silence born from transcendence. You did not grow cold to punish. You did not grow still to control. You simply became uncatchable because you no longer swim in the same river. You do not hate her. You do not resent the past. You've just buried it beneath the steps you took to rise. And even if she screamed your name from the base of the mountain, your soul would no longer echo it back. 5. When you forgive without wanting contact. Here is the paradox of full healing. You forgive completely, but you do not invite. You release the past, but you do not revisit. You accept what happened, but you do not need to explain. Forgiveness is not a gesture to them. It is a mercy to yourself. It is the moment when you are no longer tied to needing them to understand you. You stop rehearsing speeches in your head. You stop crafting the perfect final message. You stop imagining the what-if version where they finally get it. Because now, you get it. That's enough. 6. The men who rise and never fall again. You are not the first to walk this path, and you will not be the last. There have always been men who were burned and then became fire. Men who were betrayed and then became untouchable. Men who were forgotten and then remembered who they truly were. Marcus Aurelius buried his children, ruled an empire, and still wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." You, too, used pain not as poison, but as path. You did not descend into bitterness, you ascended into meaning. There will be no statue to your struggle, but the man you are now, that is your monument. 7. You owe no one your lower self. You no longer owe her softness. You no longer owe anyone your old wounds. You do not need to be the man they remember. Let them keep the memory. You have become myth. Not by pretending, not by disappearing, but by standing still when the storm screamed your name. And now, in your stillness, you are invisible to their games. You are irrelevant to their need for control. You are immune. 8. This is not the end. This is the height. Many confuse detachment with disappearance, but you have not vanished. You have arrived. You will speak again, but not in desperation. You will love again, but not from hunger. You will walk among people, but they will not sway your soul. You are now a man who hears the world as it is, but responds only to what aligns with his nature. This is where Stoicism ceases to be a practice and becomes your way of being. There are no more tests now, only choices. 9. The final law. You belong only to yourself. You are not hers. You are not theirs. You are not even the man they remember. You belong to the silence that shaped you, to the discipline that refined you, to the ascent that no one else saw, but that you walked step by brutal step. Now let them talk. Let them reach. Let them wonder why nothing moves you anymore. They are standing at the base of the mountain. You are where the air is too thin for confusion, too pure for guilt, too high for regret. 10. Close the gate.
There will be a final test, not of emotion, but of closure. She will come in dreams. Your past will knock like a friend. Guilt will wear your mother's voice. But you do not answer, because the gate is closed. Not with anger, but with peace. The kind of peace that does not require words. The kind that does not ask for understanding. The kind that ends a cycle so perfectly that even pain bows before it. You are not hiding. You are done. Final words. Become the place they cannot reach. You are not the man waiting at the door. You are the door that no longer opens. You are not the echo. You are the silence after. You are not broken. You are beyond. Welcome to the summit. They cannot reach you anymore, not because you are gone, but because you've arrived. So, if something inside you stirred, if the silence spoke to you, subscribe. Not for noise, but for the next moment of stillness. Because this is not the end of the road. It's the edge of the next awakening. See you in the next video. Until then, stand still, stand true. Stand alone if you must, but never fall again.